Start. Welcome to my nightmare. Oh, that was a phrase repeated by Alice Cooper during his shows, you remember perhaps. And Lloyd de Moss used to claim that we are just about to wake up to the nightmare of childhood. Now, same kind of welcome words can be associated to the feeling of uncanniness in the Trumpian show. How many times you have wondered if this can be true? Yes, the nightmare is true. This dissociation and disconnection from reality, and the pleasure principle of the avid few reigning over the many. The 19th century American showman, businessman and politician P.T. Barnum, you know that he promoted hoaxes and is erroneously given credit about the phrase, "there's a sucker born every minute." The so-called Barnum effect pinpoints that people are gullible to become fooled, prone to believe vague and generalized descriptions about themselves, without noticing that such descriptions apply to almost everybody. Now the current Trump effect goes maybe other way around. Trump's vague and brutal messages, so-called messages, tweets, make more and more people annoyed, infuriated and confused when they hear Trump using words that don't mean nothing, adding deadly spaces between empty words. America will be great again. It's tremendous. Well, in his own way, Vladimir Putin gives also endless speeches about corruption and renewal of Russia, where democracy will be managed by a dictatorship of law. Here in my presentation I give some comparative evaluations of personality aspects of Trump and Putin. I'm sure Trump doesn't want to be compared, but I will do it anyway now here in my present presentation. And I see this a kind of fusion, Trump-Putin. It's a strange case of fusion, mirroring and twinning, and it may give rise to narcissistic wounding on both sides. It may give rise to identity confusion and even paranoid suspicion. Lately, I think we have some proof of that too. So I have here some slides that I will follow now and give you also some quotations from both Trump and Putin. I'm not going to repeat all those descriptions that we have heard about Trump's personality. That there's a kind of endless repetition compulsion to say it again and again. Does he really deserve this, that we are repeating what he is saying in his tweets? We should analyze it, okay, but there's no use of saying it again and again. So a kind of love affair, but how do they get together? Trump has said several times that he would like to get along with Putin, but surely he has a history of being a bully, and Putin has a history of being bullied. Already at school, he was a kind of small guy who was bullied quite a lot. So they come from different areas, actually. And Putin's means of coping with this situation is that he presents himself as a kind of heroic, muscular horseman or fisherman, whatever, tiger shooter. Here you can see his self-image, kind of global power man. So they are not quite identical twins, and their fusion may be confused, but there is a kind of flirt going on between them. So what does he really want? They haven't even met. They have had just phone calls. So it's a very strange situation, actually. Are they afraid of something? Who is tougher? How can they show that? So here I have this flirt going on. As you see, this heart is pulsating there, and they would like to get along, but there are differences. Now, as you have heard from many papers about Trump's childhood, he was a kind of troublemaker, a tough kid, as Polelovich said, and if we use Lloyd de Mos's phrase, kind of bad boy self inside him, and he clearly idealized his father and said that his outgoing mother was a model for him too, so both parents were okay. And then there is a history of his being kind of sad and vulnerable boy beneath the facade of this tough guy. And then he was sent to the military school. Maybe he experienced his as a kind of it was a kind of guilty feeling that he had done something wrong, and then he was sent to the military school. And from his father, he got that early business mentality. They were quite rich. Now, on the right side, I have Putin here, and he used to say that he had a very normal Russian, or well, Soviet childhood, and everything was normal. And that's the phrase they often use in Russia. Everything is okay, normal. But he was bullied at school. His father was severely traumatized during the Second World War, and his father was very stern. I think he used physical abuse, and young Putin had to fight against his father. But his mother was very friendly, soft, and religiously oriented. Now, there was a teacher who rescued Putin from gangs. She helped him to become a good pupil, and he got interest in different kinds of sport activities. For example, judo. He excelled in judo. And from a very early age, he admired the security service, the KGB, and wanted to become a member of that, and he did later on. And he went even to Germany for many years to work for the KGB. Now, there are major conflict areas. You have heard several times about Trump's narcissism and grandiosity, his arrogance, and his being quite revengeful also. So he seems to have a poor impulse control, but linked to his narcissism, there is a kind of perfectionist narcissism. He doesn't admit any errors, and everything has to be perfect. So from the cognitive point of view, you can talk about his short attention span, but Trump has commented that he has such an attention span that is suitable for his job. He has commented on this. And then there is that other way of seeing Trump's personality that has been presented by the psychiatrist Nasir Khaimi, who used the term hyperthymia, and he meant by that kind of personality that doesn't need much sleep, is highly talkative, is sexually impulsive, but also has creative components in his narcissism. Then one paradox is that we have often seen Trump as highly manipulating, but for example, Michael Lewis proposed that Trump is also highly manipulable, so dependent on other people's opinions and assistance and so on. Now from Vladimir Putin's side, I would say that this fear of being bullied, encircled and excluded is a central issue in his personality, and it's also reflected in his politics, in his international politics. Then there are certain inferiority complexes that are compensated by his physical prowess and his total control of power. He has this KGB, or the early Cheka mentality. I have the absolute right to beat up every enemy and to chase them wherever they are. Now, Paul Elovitz has presented some defenses used by Trump, for example, denial, projection, splitting. I could add here acting out. He says that he has a good gut instinct. And then there are scapegoating processes going on, building walls all around. There is this macho alpha personality with megalomania, sexism, and also this curious pre-science. I know things before they happen. For example, in Sweden, they got something going on. There is some terrorism going on. There wasn't, but then it happened to be. So I knew it before. He really got quite confused. He didn't understand the details at all, but he happened to, get right at that moment. So from Vladimir Putin's side, there is strong armoring defense. There is also splitting defenses, and this feeling of omnipotence. He has said, nobody controls me here, meaning in the Kremlin, I control everybody myself, and he likes that feeling. Mm-hmm. And as you have seen many photos of Putin, he wants to express his muscular masculinity, and he has also some sexism phrases. I'll come back to some of them. But not only pathological aspects, there must be some creative issues involved in their personalities, because they have come through to large audiences. And from Trump's side, I could say he has good media skills. He can do business negotiations, even internationally. He may have missed something, but still he goes through these negotiations. So it's a kind of productive attitude. And also about narcissism, I would say that it's a kind of self-imposed narcissism too. I mean that it is a conscious resource for him personally. It's not just pathological. So, and he's clever using people's biases, weaknesses, heuristics. He says that well, there is a Mexican guy who killed an American, and all Mexicans do that. So it's this availability heuristics that he is using. And he's very clever in that. And people get trapped. Very many people get trapped with that. So compared then with Trump, I say that Putin has a stronger ability to be attentive and to concentrate on central issues for a much longer time. He can speak hours and hours and be very concentrated. And he really seems to know about the issues going on in the whole of Russia. And he uses quite complex international strategies. You know, he knows judo, and it has given him some good practice. And sometimes I feel that he is more diplomatic than many Western leaders. He really tries to do some diplomacy in international affairs, but then he gets annoyed, and then it's this brutal, we have to show our physical prowess. It's the brutal side. So he has to show his fitness, and he has to show that he's cool. So there's this emotion control. And what is appealing to many of his supporters is that he also says that Russia will be great. And we love Mother Russia. And also some religiously oriented people, there are many of them in Russia, like the idea that Putin very often goes to Orthodox churches. He was baptized and it was because of his mother. So the heart is still there, and now I come to some personal relations. There are several, quotations by Trump about how he would like to get along with Putin. I'm not going to repeat them, but they started already in 2007, so early. There's the first same kind of phrase uttered by Trump, that he likes Putin. So will he become my new best friend? That's the famous question. And then if Putin likes Donald Trump, I consider that an asset, not a liability, because we have a horrible relationship with Russia. So he wants to have a better relationship with Russia. Now from Putin's side, he used a Russian word that Trump interpreted to mean that he is genius, but Putin didn't mean that. He meant that Putin is brilliant, a kind of flashy or even flamboyant person. So Putin has misinterpreted that. Maybe there was a false translation actually into English. And well, Trump is a brilliant person and the absolute leader of the presidential race. This was before the election. So, but this is the sexist part. Trump is a grown man and has met the most beautiful women in the world. I find it hard to believe that he rushed to some hotel to meet these girls of loose morals, so prostitutes, although ours, so Russian, are undoubtedly the best in the world. Well, Trump was accused that he went to the hotel and had some, prostitutes over there. So these are just some pics from their ideas of public relations. This arrogance by Trump is everywhere. Happy New Year to all, including to my many enemies and those who have fought me and lost so badly they just don't know what to do. Love. And Russia will respect our country more. He meant that Hillary was a bad choice. So Putin didn't like Hillary. Now he likes America much more because they have chosen Trump. So Putin has said, why does the world dislike Russia? I don't think that we are unloved or considered to be ignorant. So he certainly needs to be loved. And this is a curious saying, the United States and Russian security services regularly exchange information. So what's the big deal now? They have done it already before, and everybody knows it in Russia, but we don't know it here maybe. So then about reading history, I only found some few words about Trump's reading, and his own saying is, I have a Bible near my bed. Well, he once quoted some short phrase from the Bible, and it was wrong. But I have much more from Putin. I love the Russian classics very much, the Russian classical literature, but I also read modern literature. I'm very fond of Tolstoy and Chekhov, and I also enjoy reading Gogol very much. And then about also English literature, I have always loved and avidly read the novels of Jack London, Jules Verne, and Ernest Hemingway. The characters depicted in their books who are brave and resourceful people embarking on exciting adventures definitely shaped my inner self and nourished my love for the outdoors. So there's a big difference. But Trump only says, make it short, make it one page only, and with bullets. And so here I have some slogans. All of the women on The Apprentice flirted with me, consciously or unconsciously, that's to be expected. And then about the climate change that you talked yesterday. It's freezing and snowing in New York, we need global warming. And then my intelligence quotient is one of the highest, and you all know it, please don't feel so stupid or insecure, it's not your fault. And some weeks ago he announced his future campaign slogan, so he changed it a bit, keep America great. So he will be also president in the future. Now Putin says spying has always gone on since ancient times. So this is old wisdom. And the Russian army is polite but menacing, impossible to defeat her. America's development began with a large-scale ethnic cleansing, unprecedented in human history. And then he misses some dialogue. There is no one to talk to since Mahatma Gandhi died. And there is no such thing as a former KGB man. He is identifying himself here. He is always the KGB man. And then about his private life, I have a private life in which I don't permit interference. It must be respected. Now, there may be this suspicious feeling now starting. Now the heart is breaking, and this approach avoidance dynamic will come forth, and it may have pathological aspects in store for us. So it may not be going on like a flirtation. There will be this push-pull dynamics, kind of borderlining, splitting situation, and increasing paranoia. You know, the Kremlin ordered a dossier of Trump's personality just recently. So it's not very usual to have such kind of dossier, and they are worried now. They are really worried what will happen with Trump. And they are not stupid, they make psychological profiles too in Russia. So this entitlement by Trump to be great is maybe horrendous. And you have seen already that the mother of all bombs it's deadly for all. It was a kind of show. And I will not lose, that was an idea from his father. You either win or lose, and the world is a dangerous place. You have to protect yourself. And my unique reality will prevail. There's the start. It's a kind of omen of paranoia. And Putin clearly is very often offended by the West, and he feels this threat of being encircled and bullied again. There was a great, commemoration of the liberation of Auschwitz just recently, and Putin was not invited to that. It was a great offense because, you know, Russians were crucial in that case. So why do they do this? To go on bullying like that. So Putin has to say victory is in our genes from generation to generation. Nothing will be forgotten. And well, Putin says that everything will probably never be okay, but we have to try for it. And he still seems to have this interest of doing this together with Trump, but there are broken mirrors already on both sides and omens of this kind of paranoid suspicion. And Putin said we're no longer in the Cold War. Eavesdropping on friends is unacceptable. He wants friends to be friends, united in truth winning, with no hacking. But are there unconscious leader authors going through more and more splits, and are they craving justice just for themselves? Here are some photographs when they were young, Trump on the left and Vladimir Putin on the right. Trump is here about the age 4, and Putin a bit, maybe 5, 6. And here Donald Trump at New York Military Academy, where he wanted to excel and was not very much liked by others, and lived in his own excellence. Here Vladimir Putin with his parents from Putin's personal archive. They were not that rich. Everything was normal. It was actually quite horrid. They didn't have even hot water when they lived in Leningrad. And 2 of Putin's elder brothers were killed during the Second World War in Leningrad. So that's why always remember defense and also religion. See Christ the Savior on the blackboard in the military training school. And here is, we always have to remember, we don't want to forget the Victory Day, and here is the Leningrad commemoration. But also this clever diplomacy. What is it now? It's to show that we are strong, and there are military complexes on both sides. And Dwight D. Eisenhower already warned America about this when he gave his farewell address in 1961. You remember that? It was kind of warning. Well, the fate of the autocratic leaders still may be finally, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Thank you.
Hopefully.